A word to the wise. We are an explicit podcast tackling content with adult themes as well as entering spoiler territory if you aren't caught up with us. That point this week is through the end of Book 2 of the Mistborn series, The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson.
Hey there, this is Cross.
And I'm PJ.
And we are Words and Whiskey, a podcast for veteran and novice readers alike. We tackle fiction novels and love to talk about what we're drinking. You should think of us as your intoxicating weekly book club.
I finished another book, Crossland.
You did. I'm so proud of you.
I feel very proud. I feel very accomplished. It only took me 3 months. But we got it in just under the wire for both of us to leave, for just fuck off for 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's true. I'm very glad. And today we are joined, of course, by the incredible Julie, TheFoxyReader. How do you want us to refer to you, by the way? We didn't talk about this maybe.
Please just call me Julie.
Julie. Yeah, I was like, I started putting in the document. I'm like, that might be weird.
You can call me TheFoxyReader, but yeah, it feels very weird when people refer to me as that, even though I picked it as my name, but yeah, just Julie.
Yeah, okay, totally.
Perfect.
We're so glad to have you on the show today, though, to help us wrap up Well of Ascension.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about it. I finished it 2 weeks ago, so my memory's a little foggy already.
I was just going to say, so still fresh.
I feel like I have to keep saying that, but my memory is just not the best.
That's super fair. And part of the reason that we wanted to have you on is because it's your first time through the series as well. So this is kind of your first pass.
Yes. Yeah, which a lot of people, on Instagram are really surprised I had not read this before.
Yeah,
it's a major adult fantasy series. I consider it adult. I know there's a lot of talk whether it's YA. I think it's adult. But yeah, I totally missed it when it came out.
Yeah, I was so shaken by, I've said this on the show a couple of times, but the Wheel of Time and the way that Brandon wrote the end, and I didn't love it, so I never read anything of Brandon's until I was goaded into it last year by our listeners to have us cover this and everything else, and I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot, and if I like it, we'll do it. And so this was a major hole in my fantasy as well until last year.
Did you start with Mistborn, or what did you start with Sanderson?
So my first Sanderson experience was the last two Wheel of Time books. And then for his own stuff, it was Mistborn. And at this point, I am through everything in the Cosmere except for Rhythm of War. So I've just got the last half-ish of Rhythm of War left.
Wow. Yeah, I started with Stormlight. I was at the bookstore. I didn't know where to start with Sanderson. I have a friend who loves him. And she just basically told me you can start anywhere. So that didn't really help. But yeah, I was in the bookstore and I picked up Way of Kings and it's 1,000 pages. So I put it back and I was looking at Mistborn and some rando stranger came up to me and he was like, I've never done this in my life, but if you could please buy Way of Kings, it's my favorite book of all time. He's like, it would make me so happy. And I was like, well, now I have to buy it. And then in line, another rando stranger was like, are you buying Way of Kings? I love that book. So I was like, okay, I think I made a good choice. That's really good.
Awesome. As far as an origin story with Sanderson goes. Was Way of Kings your first experience with Sanderson?
It was, which was a very daunting way to start with Sanderson because it's so long, but I loved it. I've only read the first 2 in Stormlight. I'm on 3 right now, but yeah, it takes me about 10 months on average to read one.
Yeah,
I'll be prepped for book 5 by the time it comes out.
Right when it comes out. We're aiming to cover those on the show when we're done with the Mistborn era books and Red Rising 6. And right now, as I have it scheduled out, I have us doing 1 book a quarter, basically. And I'm like, that might be too fast. I don't know if we're going to be able to get through it within that time, but
I'm hanging in a read along right now with a couple of friends from Bookstagram, and they're doing 1 a month. And I'm like, this is a lot to ask for people.
Yeah.
I'm just here for the chat. I don't think I can keep up once we get to book 3. There's no way I can read this in a month.
I ripped through book 1 and 2 in a month, but that was because I was literally focused on doing that, like working out to it. And like literally everything I did during a waking hour was listen to those books outside of editing the
how
show.
many hours are those?
50 something without speed ups. Yeah, so it's like 2 days of straight audio.
But every page counts.
Yeah, it's true.
Every minute counts.
Yeah. And I had the physicals, so like I would listen during the day, and then at night I would read and like flip to the chapter, and so it was just like passing back and forth, and it was definitely an experience. But we're here today to talk about Mistborn. See, this is how we get off track so easily. But before we talk about the book itself, let's talk about what we're drinking. PJ, I'll let you start. What are you having?
So I got a new ingredient today. I got a banana liqueur. So I decided to make a Naked Ape from the Smuggler's Cove cocktail book. So it is 1/2 ounce of lemon juice, 1/2 ounce cinnamon syrup, 1/2 ounce banana liqueur, 1.5 ounces of rum. I used Appleton Estate 12-year, 1/2 ounce of overproof rum. I used Lemon Heart and Sun 151, and then 1 dash of Angostura bitters. And also, I got a new tool. I think I haven't talked about it on the show before, but I got a cocktail mixer, or a drink mixer. So I can not only make malts and like milkshakes, but I can also make tiki drinks that call for drink mixers. And it's really, really easy. It's really cool. So
is that like a blender or like a
almost? So it's like a little
mixer?
Blender, right? Like a
like an
I have to go
immersion
grab
blender?
it
kind
now.
of, yeah. Okay, now PJ has to. He's like, all right, they made fun of me for
Sorry,
too long.
PJ. I don't.
Can you see it from there? It's plugged in.
I can't see it.
Well, essentially,
Well, there's this thing called Google. I will Google it.
it's essentially like an external blender, I guess is the best way to put it. It's like a stick with a little spur on the end of it that you stick your cup into, and it like, spins really
Oh,
fast.
okay. That sounds like, I think it's called an immersion blender.
Kind of. It doesn't have
that
blades.
different?
It doesn't have blades at all.
Oh. A less lethal immersion blender.
Yep. So similar to that, but you'll see them used for like making milkshakes primarily. So
Okay.
yeah, but it is delicious. I don't know. I've got some really funky rums in there, so there's a little bit of banana flavors that come through on those to begin with, but accentuating it with the banana really, really kicks it into high gear. So happy with it. Following that up for the back half beer, I've got another one of Black Stack Brewing's Now Presenting, which they had originally called Ken Burns Presents, and then they got, I think, in trouble with PBS. So it is their smoothie sour with plum, grapefruit, and passion fruit.
Yum. That sounds
Crack
good.
that open later.
Nice.
Oh, what about you, Crossland?
I am having a drink that I'm naming the Pewter Drag. It's a spin on the Midnight Stinger that I've made so many times on the show at this point that I just love. If you would have told Dark Age era podcast Crossland that he would like Fernet Branca, I would have said that you're a fucking liar. And I have come around to this liqueur more than I'm willing to admit. I love it. I make so much with it. I'm almost out and I want to go like buy another bottle. It's ridiculous. So anyway, it's 2 ounces of Fernet, 2 ounces of aged rum, 1 ounce lime, 1 ounce lemon, 1 ounce simple. Really, it's just a swap on the Midnight Stinger rum for bourbon. So that's the biggest switch. Very good. Very different actually with that switch. The other one tastes like Coca-Cola. This one tastes like, I don't know, delicious. I don't know what it tastes like. It's just good.
All right.
Julie, what are you having?
So I'm not fancy. I'm actually not even good at making cocktails. But before this, I was working. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to make a cocktail. But I was able to still a couple beers from the event I was working at. And I'm also a pretentious hipster, so it is craft beer only for me. So to give some shout outs to some local Northwest Arkansas breweries, I have Fossil Cove's Birch Avenue Blonde. And then I'll follow that up with Bike Rack Brewing's Classic American Lager.
Ooh, hoo, hoo.
Very nice.
Yes,
and they were free, which is great.
Yeah.
That's the best.
Free, stolen, it's similar.
Yeah. Yeah, to give the story, so working events, you often walk away with food. That's the best part of being in event planning. But yeah, with these 2 beers, I stuffed them into the inside pocket of my denim jacket and walked away with that and a couple petty fours. And I was like, yep, that made that worth it.
Made the whole dang event worth it.
All those hours of work were worth it for these 2 free beers.
Nice. That's awesome. And we love local beers. And have we ever drank anything that hasn't been a craft beer on the show, PJ?
I might have done a Modelo one time.
That's fair. Yeah, I think we've done a couple.
Yeah, I feel like Modelo's is acceptable for anyone who drinks craft beer. Everyone's always like, yeah, that's okay. But if you said Corona, I'd be like, what is this, Fast and the Furious? Or
I think they're made by the same company, too. I want to say.
That's why I don't know why there's such a difference.
Don't quote me on that.
Yeah,
but
Corona's just like strangely skunky, but it's great like on the beach or what have you. You know what I mean? Like it's a fine beer in certain situations.
There's a reason why it's skunky.
If you're already drunk, it's great.
Yes.
So the reason why it's skunky all the time, same with Heineken, is they don't use brown bottles. So it doesn't block all of it. Like clear bottles don't block any UV penetration. Green bottles do like 15% or something, whereas brown bottles do like 85%. And that is called like the skunking that happens is called light strike. And that happens from overexposure to UV radiation. So that's why Corona always tastes skunky.
Do you know why they would want to?
Brand recognition.
Because you can see when you put the lime in it?
I think there's part of that. There's part, like, it's just how they've always done it, so people recognize it. I don't know. Same with Heineken. It's always the green bottles. Rolling Rock, the same thing. Yeah.
Oh, Rolling Rock. You just made me shiver uncontrollably.
Yeah, flashback to my college years.
Definitely. Okay, so we want to get into the breakdown, talk about the book and whatnot. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about you. So we want to start off by just having a brief conversation about like you and the read-alongs that you do, as well as what you do on Instagram, of course. What encouraged you to start your Bookstagram and Reels page?
Yeah, so gosh, I've had a Bookstagram for about 3.5 years now. Oddly enough, I was inspired by BookTube, which is the book like YouTube corner of the internet. I loved watching videos, people talking about books, and I was like, I want to talk about books, but there's absolutely no way I can really put together a studio to produce videos. And I think in one of the videos I was watching, whoever it was mentioned Bookstagram, and I was like, wait a second, I have an Instagram. Taking pictures is easy. Like, I can do this. So yeah, I started my Bookstagram. I started a separate account because I didn't want my friends and family to be annoyed by how much I talked about books, even though they listen to that in real life. So, but yeah, I created it, and the friends and the family that I was like, embarrassed to have them see it immediately and followed me and were very supportive. But yeah, I was on Bookstagram for a couple of years, and then Reels, I think it was introduced in like September 2020, and I had hopped on making those because I am an ex-theater kid who like loves attention and likes being funny and weird. And so yeah, that's where like my Bookstagram really took off, with gaining followers and like interacting in the community. Like shortly after that, I think I did my first read along, which I do what we call Slacker read-alongs with my friend Andy, whose handle is Andy Writes and Reads. We read books that have been out for a while that everyone else seems to have read that we totally missed, hence the Slacker title. So I started off doing that with her, and then I branched off at doing my own read-alongs I just call them Foxy read-alongs because I didn't put a lot of thought into that name. It was simple. But yeah, with those, I think I started with From Blood and Ash, which I don't know if you guys have read that. It's a terrible series, but yeah, that's also another thing. I feel like I'm known for hating most of the books that I read. But yeah, I started with From Blood and Ash, and then immediately moved to doing a reread of Red Rising as a read along, and have done a couple other things. But yeah, Mistborn was the latest Foxy read along that I started. We're just about to finish the third one next week, and then I'm going to pause and pick it back up for Era 2 before the next book comes out. So yeah, Mistborn has been an interesting read along. It was one where I happened to announce it, right before Brandon Sanderson announced his Kickstarter. I had no idea that was going to happen, and so it was like a lot of people jumped into the read along because they hadn't read him, or, were just excited because of the Kickstarter. So yeah, I think it was like 90 people that started with the first book doing the read along, but then there was like a huge drop off going into the second book. I think it went down to like maybe 50 people. So yeah, he's not for everybody, but yeah, now we have a pretty good core group. And the read alongs, the way that I kind of structure them is we have like just a chat group and Instagram. I usually keep it like below 20 people within a chat group, usually aiming for like 15. And yeah, I split it up into 3 weeks worth of reading, which I always think usually it works out pretty good, especially with the length of these books. These are a nice, 600 to 700. And yeah, each week we have a certain amount of chapters that we read. And then we have like a day, like this time Fridays are our discussion days. I started off with a summary of what we read. I like kind of in the summaries poking fun at the book. And it's basically like drunk history version of summing up the book. But I mainly do that so people like know where we stopped in case they read ahead, so they don't drop spoilers. But yeah, it's been super fun. And like I said, now, even though we've had a lot of people drop into this with the third book, now it really is like a core group of people that are invested in it. And yeah, like we have a lot of people who have very strong feelings about certain characters and they like to fight about them. So yeah, it's just super fun.
That's great. Yeah, there's a lot of strong feelings in the Brandon Sanderson fandom about specific characters. And man, I remember, I think early on in one of our Mistborn episodes, I said something that was controversial to a lot of people, and the number of messages I got that week like flared, and they were just like, "Hey, wait, no, but you like him, right?" And I was like, "Well, I do, but we have to get there before I can, like, I have to goad PJ into feeling things sometimes." So
what was Can I ask you what that was about? Now?
So specifically, it was about Marsh and the relationship that like Marsh and Kelsier had, because first book Marsh is very different than later book Marsh. And then people are like, "No, you got to treasure those moments." And I'm like, "I do, but PJ doesn't fucking know to trust him from a fly on the wall."
Yeah.
I mean, that's I feel like that's one of the coolest things about Brandon Sanderson's writing is like, you can start out hating a character, and then by the next book, you're like, I really like this character. And vice versa. It's, there's usually not, and that's another thing that's cool too, is within the read-alongs, like, it's not like there's just one character that everyone's like, oh yeah, Vin's my favorite. It is spread out all over the place on who everybody loves. There's not just one character that is the fan favorite. It just seems to be all the characters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally.
I think a big part of that is the fact that it's split across so many different perspectives. Even perspectives that last 4 or 5 pages and never go back to them. But it makes everybody feel so tangible and real. And you don't get locked into, like, for Red Rising's sake, Darrow for an entire trilogy and kind of seeing everything through his lens. You get a very, very wide range of understanding of every character.
It's always funny to me that PJ thinks that POVs are these new things because PJ has such limited experience with books. And it's funny. It's funny that you react this way because I love it. And you're totally right. And that is a valid opinion. But it's always like, it's this moment where you're like, this is such a critical, crazy thing. And it's like, yeah, it's kind of like standard. I don't know.
That's called writing. That's how it works.
PJ's
yeah. I have ideas, guys. I know stuff.
Your ideas and feelings are valid, PJ.
They're okay at best.
Sometimes underdeveloped. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that's one of the things. I definitely want to spend some time talking about the POVs that we get in this book, because I think that that's a lot of the joy that I get in rereads of this one is how many POVs there are. In the previous book, it's really just, for the most part, Vin and Kelsier that we bounce back and forth between, with a couple of exceptions. But this one, we spend a lot more time and a lot more perspectives. So I want to start each of these episodes off, when we're talking about Mistborn, with which allomantic ability would you choose? Because I think that it'll be fun, to see if PJ's answer changes over time, and to get like everyone's take. So if you did pick an allomantic ability, just one, because you're misting, what would you pick, Julie?
I would pick 10. I would be a 10-eye because I am the biggest gossip. Yeah, like, I mean, I don't know. In college, I was a journalism major. So I think I just love that, like, collecting information. I'm not even into spreading rumors. I just want to know, and I will take stuff to the grave. But yeah, it's mainly the listening in on people's part. Yeah, I would be like the Gossip Girl version in this universe. I'm trying to think like what that would even be called. Gossip Mistborn. I don't know. But yeah, I would. And I mean, obviously the enhanced eyesight would be cool and stuff. But yeah, I mainly just want to listen in on people's conversations.
Talkie Tin Eye.
Talkie Tin Eye. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Talkie Tin Eye. That could work.
That's not bad. It's kind of like in the first book when Kelsier interacts with Hoyd and others, kind of talking in like kind of back alley channels. Like I could totally imagine you'd like blend right in there.
Right. I feel like I would still be so obvious. I am that person that, yeah, you know, in the restaurant when your friend's like, oh yeah, you know, check out this person behind you. And you're like, I do the dramatic turn and they're like, no. Exactly. So yeah, I'm not going to say I would be a good 10-eye, but I would love to be one.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. I love that. That's a great one. That's unique. We definitely haven't heard anyone say that before. So
it's like the least useful of all of them.
I mean, there's something to be said to being in tune with the environment around you, blah, blah, blah. But like, yeah, no, I love that.
Well, it's like, you think of, yeah, who is a 10-eye? Like Spook is a 10-eye, right? Mm-hmm. And he spends most of this book off page doing whatever.
And he thinks himself useless. So, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, he does. But yeah, I'm just saying, he's getting all the good gossip.
True. Oh,
that's
man.
A good point. Imagine being a duralumin misting, though.
Like you can only burn duralumin.
That'd be pretty useless.
Yeah, that is
much
true.
Much more useless than tin, yes.
Like, how would that even work?
You wouldn't be able to do anything. Your duralumin really quickly.
Yeah, it's like, would absolutely nothing happen? And
yeah. Like
you would just know it was burnt out.
It'd be like Vin when she first finds the alloy and learns that it works. She's not burning anything else, and it just evaporates.
Yeah. So you could do it and not even know that you did.
Right. I feel like this is the same as copper? If you're burning copper and you have no idea like what it means to burn a metal, you could be producing a copper cloud and have no idea.
Yeah, but at the very least, like no one else would ever know that you're, someone who's burning copper.
This brings it back to how do people find copper mistings? Mm-hmm. How does that happen?
Smokers, yeah. Yeah, great question. Okay, PJ, I want what you are, though. Are you going to...
It's still iron. It's still iron pulling.
God damn it. It's
not fun. Because you get both locomotion. You can, like, sit on an office chair and pull yourself around. But you also get to pull shit off of, like, from across the room. I can grab a hammer, like Thor, from across the garage.
Oh, that's cool.
Like, imagine doing the opposite, being steel, and, like, I have to put this hammer back. Throw it through your fucking wall. Like,
well, yeah, it's just a very different utility.
It's so much more utility.
I think of steel pushing rather as flying, iron pull, steel pushing.
That's what we gotta call it from now on.
Yeah.
Steel pushing.
Steel pushing. I'm just a steel pusher. It sounds like a bad 90s rap song. Like you can just imagine it spiraling out of control. I love
By
it.
Vanilla Ice.
Yes, most definitely. It was either that or it would be a crappy Kid Rock song. Like I was trying to work out which one. Yeah.
I think there's a Chance the Rapper song called Pusha Man.
Oh, there is. Yeah. Off of Acid Rap, I think. Yeah, I think you're right. But I stand by steel pushing because I think that would allow you to fly, and you can flying's cool. I don't know.
Iron would let you be.
I know I would be terrible at that, and there's a chance you could die.
Yeah,
that's a reasonable thing. You're very good at slamming doors open. You could absolutely knock every door off of its hinges, which is great. Dramatic entrances. I'm all about that flair. Yeah.
Iron would let you fly like Spider-Man.
Kind of, yeah, true. You would kind of. You couldn't slow yourself. That's one of the problems with iron, unless you pull to the next thing, and you're are. You have to know where you're going. I'm still with steel.
Same with steel. You can't just fuck off into nowhere.
No, but you could launch, and then you could just push yourself a little bit, and then you could weave yourself down. I'm just imagining.
Okay.
It would work. I think it would work. I think so. I don't know. All right. So we landed a stalemate on not changing our abilities. And Julie's excellent addition of tin to the pile. PJ, do you remember what Lindsay said? Was she
was with
soothing?
me.
Right. I think she was rioting. She sided with you, but I think she said rioting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, she might have said rioting.
Would be cool.
Yeah.
Well, she's also a lawyer.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's perfect.
So she's
it's almost unfair.
Yeah. She did say that it would probably be illegal. But it feels like a good use case. And as I mean, I'm just the entire system lends itself to you said earlier, a theater kid flair. And so soothing and rioting to me lends that. And then I don't know, the drama of pushing to me is way better than the I'm on a little cart pulling myself around with steel and iron.
Fuck you. It'd be fun. I would wear rollerblades everywhere.
Now, I'm stuck on this idea that Johnny Depp's lawyers are rioting everyone's feelings. Because, look, I love Johnny Depp. I'm a millennial, grew up with Pirates of the Caribbean. Everyone had a Johnny Depp poster on their wall, their freshman year dorms. But I've never felt so passionate about a court case in my life. So maybe they're writing us. I'm okay with it. Oh, justice for Johnny.
There was that whole tiny thing that came out today that it looked like Amber Heard took a bump in the middle of the session. I don't know if you saw that. She was
took a bump, took a dump. What will she not do? Yeah,
it's true.
That's such a good article tagline.
That is definitely a TMZ headline waiting to be published.
Let me call TMZ. Look, I got this for you.
I got this. We did this on this podcast. You can use it. You can pay us some money.
Took a bump and or a dump.
Bumping and dumping.
I haven't been on my phone at all today since I've been working. So yeah, I missed that news. That's what I'm going to do after this is just scroll TikTok and Twitter and be like, what happened in the court case? I gotta know.
Yeah. I think you had posted something about someone to follow who was there, and I immediately did. I was like, all right, tagging this, paying attention to this as much as possible. Today didn't lend itself to too many updates, but in my family group chat, my dad sent it, of all people. That's
another weird... this was, weeks ago when it started. And yeah, I was talking to my mom and she was like, yeah, are you following this Johnny Depp court case? I'm like, yeah, are you? And she was like, yeah, me and your dad were watching it earlier. I'm like, wow, this is something that spans generations.
Yes. That's so good. And it's totally true. I find it bizarre because my dad's like, I don't have time for anything. And then he sends this thing from the trial. And it's like, okay, all right, Dad, thanks. Appreciate it.
I'm telling you, as lawyers are rioting all of America and I guess the rest of the world. I don't know internationally how this plays, but here in America.
Yeah, I'm curious too. I know we have some international fans that have talked a little bit in our Discord about it. Yeah, I wonder how it plays, especially given the like British court case resolution. You see how we get off track so easily? Like we easily cut like 40 minutes of off track conversation from some of our episodes. We love it though.
So Johnny Depp's a Mistborn, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, most
absolutely,
most definitely. He's definitely a smoker, no question.
On the topic of getting off track all the goddamn time, do you have a hard out? Like, is there a time that you need to be gone by?
I like 10 o'clock Central is probably when I need to be wrapping up.
Okay,
cool.
Sounds good.
Reasonable.
Just want to make sure so we can like try to corral ourselves a little bit more.
Oh, we'll be here all night still talking about Johnny Depp.
You know, we had Zeph on, and we recorded a 5-hour episode talking about just fucking Lysander.
Well, okay, yeah, I could go on about that. Yeah. Space racist all night long. I hate him.
Well, what was so funny, so he came to me with that episode idea when we were in like Golden Sun. And he was like, I want to do an episode that's just focused on Lysander after you get through Dark Age. And I was like, okay, but my request is that you have to defend Lysander. And he's like, I fucking hate that you made me do this. I'm doing my damnedest. And so he had been preparing for like 6 months for that episode, taking like copious notes. And it's just, man, that one was a joy.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love like I love having unpopular opinions, but that one, I don't know if I could defend him for more than 5 minutes.
He went on for about 45 minutes. He's like, no, I fucking hate him. But like,
so. Yeah, I feel like once you get to talking about all the poetry, I hate when he starts spouting out the poetry.
Oh, I love the poetry, but that's not a problem.
What a douchebag.
Me too, thanks. Yeah. Okay, all right, getting to the book.
What book? Were we supposed to read something?
This is why we love this show. So, one of the first points I wanted to bring up here to discuss is the trek through the logbook in this story. Right away, we're seeing Sanderson reusing the styling from the first book, and I think that it sets up kind of our expectations to be sure of kind of what to expect from the story. There's kind of like a little meta commentary here that I think is fun, where it's like, in the end, when you finally realize, oh, I shouldn't be trusting anything that's not engraved in metal, it's like, the book isn't in metal, so this is like the words in the book I shouldn't be trusting. There's like a weird meta mystery there. What do you guys think about, the logbook and kind of the mysteries inherent?
Oh, man. I'll let you go first, Julie.
I mean, yeah, I think it's like a really interesting way to frame the story, because I will say there was a point, I want to say it's a little over midway through, that, yeah, I started to realize from what was in the logbook of like, wait a second, whatever's in the Well of Ascension is not good. And it's like, what is his name? Rashek?
Rashek's the Lord Ruler. Quan's the guy who wrote
Rashek.
The book.
Yes. Okay. There was a point where I realized that Rashek was, sent to kill him for a reason, and not just like, I feel like with the first book, it was very much like, oh yeah, I hated him. He was, really upset that it wasn't a Terraceman that was the hero of ages, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, in this book, I felt like there was just this, I wish I had the page number. There was an entry where I was like, wait a second, everything our heroes are working towards right now is exactly what they should not be working towards. And I just thought like that was such a cool way, when I feel like whenever, I'm someone that reads a lot. So I usually pick up on things before they happen, because, like I said, you just read a lot, a lot of tropes, how a lot of story direction goes. I felt like with this book, especially with the logbook, it was like I could tell Sanderson was leading us along, and I was picking up things right as he was wanting me to pick up things. So yeah, so whenever we get to the, explosive ending, I was like, yes, the logbook is really what gave me this clue that this is how all this was going to go down in the end. So that was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were obviously hints that there was something that the Lord Ruler had been doing the entire time. Like there were not even hints, just explicit language telling us like, you've doomed yourself. Like I was holding this back. You fucked yourselves. So there was that, but
justice for Lord Ruler. I'm a Lord Ruler apologist.
I kind of am too, except for the like bad, underholding of the ska. Everything else is okay.
Yeah, like once I looked up the fan art, I was like, oh, okay, I'm sold. You got me. Have you guys looked at the fan art? Oh my gosh.
PJ has to be very careful, so I have to send
That is true. PJ, don't ever. So I always like doing the read-alongs. I said I write the summaries. I often Google things just to make sure that I am correct. Oh yeah, and that's how I Googled Lord Ruler fan art, and then like the first thing I see, he's got like 2 spears through him. And I was like, oh, I don't think I should be seeing this.
But I don't think I should be seeing that.
I was into it, but yeah, I was like, this looks like a giant spoiler. And it was.
I think that's probably the same picture that Cross sent me, like when we got to that point.
I gave you. Yeah.
Because that's such a cool piece of art.
Yeah.
But throughout this entire story, I was pretty convinced that there were 2 different texts that were being pulled from, because it felt like such opposing voices. And it caught me off guard. I'll be the first one to admit it. I did not see it coming, that it was like actually changing the text. But everything made sense. Loved the reveal.
The fact that he tells you right away what's wrong, I think, is what's so astonishing about this entire book, because I think it intentionally lacks a prologue. Every other Brandon Sanderson book that I've read has a prologue. This one does not have a prologue. And I think it's to drive focus in on that first chapter. I think it's really effective because, especially in a reread, you're like, oh yeah, this is literally in the first chapter. You see the entire journey unfold for what is going to be the entire book. You see like Elend looking at the mist and like focusing in on the way that it's coming over the walls. He talks about like capabilities of being a Mistborn. You get the lie in the metal. You get like this idea of like Condra. Like everything is in that first chapter, and you're just not paying attention because you want to read the story. And it's just good work, Brandon.
I will say the logbook, and once again, I am a Lord Ruler apologist. I'm going to end up the president of Lord Ruler fan club by the end of this podcast. I would love a prequel that's just like, yeah, what we're seeing in the logbook, but more sketched out and going more in depth. Like, I mean, the logbook's telling a really interesting story. It just, yeah, I mean, I really like this book, and the way that it's presented is super cool. But yeah, I would read a prequel. I mean, I read anything Sanderson writes at this point. His grocery list, I would check out.
I'm definitely in that camp too at this point, after the Stormlight Archive and whatnot in this series. I will say, definitely in your read along, don't miss Secret History, but don't read it until Bands of Mourning. Just include it. But
yeah. Someone posted, not chronological, but a recommended reading order for all of Mistborn. And yeah, I was like, why is Secret History not right after Hero of Ages? But I don't know. I trust you. So yeah, I will wait. Is there Lord Ruler backstory in Secret History?
There's some backstory. I'm not a spoiler person.
Getting excited.
It is called Secret History. There's definitely something secret, and there's some history there. So, yep.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
The title doesn't lie.
It's a good time. I think you'll either enjoy it or it'll be very divisive for you. That's been the reaction that I've read or experienced from that. So either you love it or whatever.
You get to see Crossland be very nice about things that will come up that we haven't read yet. Yeah, I get to see, fuck you, you'll find out later, anytime I bring up a question.
PJ got some of that shit last night, which was funny. When we recorded the end of this, I was like, yeah, Raffo, good luck.
So, there's that. Crossland, you can be nice if you want to be. This is proof.
Speaking of nice, let's talk about Zane, our favorite torture boss boy.
Look, so I started off being like, he's like the hot topic poster boy.
Yes, yeah.
But I feel like by the end of the book, I was like, no, he works at hot topic. He's like beyond. He is the emo hot topic book character.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. He'd sell his soul in a second to any demon on the street. He'd be like, hell yeah.
I spent all of this book being like, oh, do I like him? Do I prefer him to Ellen? But then by the end, I was like, oh, God, no. This is like your high school boyfriend that you don't tell people about.
That's a great comparison. I was just going to say, he's like the guy, and I'm wearing a Blink-182 shirt right now, so this is a little bit hypocritical.
How many Blink-182 t-shirts are in your immediate
7, leave me alone.
grasp?
There's four, actually. Anyway, God, I have a problem. Needless to say, it'd be like someone wearing like a My Chem shirt every day of their existence, and like you'd be like, oh, no, you could be really cool, but you have a problem.
Look, he's beyond MCR. He's like the number one fan of, I was going to say 30 Seconds to Mars.
Oh, God,
I feel like
that's even worse. Dragging
he's like
Jared Leto into this.
He's into Jared Leto.
No,
he's front row at Morbius. He's the only person at Morbius.
That's like, so to me, oh God, I'm going to get so much shit for this. I would readily compare Kelsier to Jared Leto in the way that he has a cult following.
Oh, why? Why would you do that to Kelsier?
I know, but think about it. Zane idolizes the man throughout the book, and I don't know. He's got that same kind of rock star. Idolizes him for the wrong reasons. I should say. It's all about his power and like what he represented.
So I will say,
I don't really think that. I just
digging into Jared, Cross and I both have a very like highly rated movie that I'd consider in like probably in my top 10 movies, 10. Mr. Nobody, which stars Jared Leto. So there is that.
Oh my God, I never saw it, but I remember when it came out.
It's so good.
Okay. Well, I hate Jared Leto. I have spent
me too, but
over a decade. So I feel like now everybody hates Jared Leto, and
so it's not cool. So you have to come around. Is that what you're saying?
No, I feel vindicated.
Okay. I
will like soak in this. Like, yeah, I knew this guy was a douchebag, but to say he's like Kelsier, I don't know. You can't do that.
Suggesting that Kelsier's a douchebag.
Well, he isn't. He isn't.
Sometimes he gets over it a little bit, but yeah. Mm-hmm. He's got some work to do on himself. Oh wait, he's dead. How could he do any work?
Yeah, I don't know if I don't see Jared Leto sacrificing himself, but I do. Obviously, he has built a cult around himself. So
I can entirely imagine Jared Leto sacrificing himself while Kings and Queens plays in the background, and like you just hear this grand pulse of music as he like jumps off a bridge for no fucking reason for the sake of a tour acting. Yeah,
it was method. He was going method.
So method. He's like, yeah, I needed a cliff jump for real with no wire, and it's like, well, cool.
Wait a second. Wait. I feel like Jared Leto would be a Kandra because that's method acting, isn't it?
True. You're probably.
Jared Leto has actually devoured people's bones to inhabit the role of Doctor.
It's Armie Hammer.
Oh, that's Armie Hammer was just method acting, everybody.
Jesus Christ. This is how we go off the rails.
You're gonna get a letter from Armie Hammer's lawyers.
It's fine. We haven't gotten one yet, but maybe.
And Jared Leto's lawyers.
But to PJ's point, Mr. Nobody is the only Jared Leto movie that's really worth watching outside of Blade Runner 2049, in which he's kind of a nothing character.
Oh yeah.
So like,
well, I always a little bit of Leto goes a really long way. That was like the perfect amount.
I liked him in House of Gucci as well.
That's
Oh, that was awful. He was awful in that.
No, he was. He was, but he was playing like just a fucking bumbling idiot, and it worked. I don't know.
It was the worst Italian accent I've ever heard in my life.
It was such a bad accent.
My peaches.
My peaches. I can just imagine. I can imagine Ridley Scott telling Leto to fuck off many times while filming. Like, God, that man. Anyway, I could rant, but
I know.
We have
this whole podcast. This is Johnny Depp, Jared Leto,
interspersed with Zane, Sazed.
We're doing our very weird fan casting right now.
Totally incorrect fan casting of Mistborn. All right, so Jared Leto plays Kelsier. Please no.
Okay, if Jared Leto has to be, if he has to be in the movie, who do you cast him as?
Oh my God. Straff.
Because he's the worst.
Yes, exactly.
And preys on underage women.
Yes, precisely.
That's just natural to Jared Leto.
It is perfectly ironic in the same way. Oh God, what's the comedian who's in You, who was in You preying on Christy Elliott?
Yeah.
Right. So like, terrible, but like cast for the role in the part, and then later found to actually be doing the thing that his vile character was doing in the show. It's like, wow, are you even acting, or do you just exist?
It was method. He was just method acting. Look, has anyone method acting? You never hear of it. Like, oh yeah, they were just such a nice person, and I don't know. Tom Hanks is a nice guy, period. But it's like, oh, he inhabited the role.
I think. Yeah, I don't think anyone like.
I feel like Heath Ledger's form of method, I just feel like was different. Like he isolated himself.
Yeah,
he wasn't an asshole to everybody. I just feel like Jared Leto uses that as an excuse to be an asshole.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of anyone else. I loved.
But
go ahead.
I was gonna say I feel like Straff is probably a good. Like, how old is Jared Leto?
He is precisely 4 months older than my father. I found out he is the age of my dad, which is 50. So.
Okay, I feel like he looks anywhere between 40 and 5,000 years old.
So maybe the Lord Ruler, but hopefully not.
No, please don't ruin this for me.
Michael Fassbender, the Lord Ruler.
Oh, I would say Lee Pace, but I do love Michael Fassbender.
Lee Pace would do it. Lee Pace could do it too. Yeah.
He's got that voice. I think he's perfect casting.
God, yeah.
I think there was.
I like Lee Pace too.
I think it was myself and one other person in our Discord that had put Adam Driver at Lord Ruler.
Yeah. Also a good
poll, that's not bad. Okay, wait, but could Jared Leto play the guy that Vin levels that headbutt that explodes his head?
Please, and tell him that it's a good role. Like, lie to Jared Leto.
I mean, or that just so there's... I mean, that would be a very small role. Cool with that. But there's also the first noble...
Tresting?
Tresting.
Right in the
Lord Tresting. That could
Final
work.
Empire? Yeah. The guy who dies right in the beginning to Kelsier.
Oh.
Burns down his fucking house.
Yeah, that would work.
No, I want to see his head explode.
Yeah. And then, but yeah, that's a good point. And having him as Tresting would mean that we'd open on open to Jared Leto's face.
Oh God, yeah, people walking out of the theater. Is this Morbius 2?
It'd be like a reverse Ned Stark, that it's the bad guy who dies immediately, and you're like, okay, Jared Leto can inhabit the opposite, where he's like the bad guy who should die in everything. I'd be down with that. He can fill that role in my head. He already does.
What if we had to cast Jared Leto as one of the core group?
Dachshund.
Oh,
Hear me
but
out.
Dachshund's nice.
Kinda. Dachshund is nice and simultaneously still holds a lot of the same like core prejudices. And I think kind of, I don't miss him when he dies in this novel necessarily, because I think that he didn't really show any growth after Kelsier died. Like, he didn't change. There was nothing about him that was compelling after Final Empire. So I think Leto could play him because he'd just die.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, like, when I was writing the summary for that section of chapters where Dachshund dies, I actually forgot to put that he died. And I mentioned, like, clubs and what is her name? Tindwyl?
Tindwyl.
That was pronounced Tindwyl. Yep. I mentioned her, but yeah, I totally forgot him. I was like, sorry, dog.
PJ doesn't think he's dead. So PJ's like, no.
I have trust issues.
Just like Zane can be alive. Look, if I don't see a body, if they are not absolutely destroyed,
exactly,
I'm like, yeah, they could still be alive.
Yeah.
You just helped out PJ's paranoia in a deep way. So, okay, we've got we've talked a lot about a number of things, including this fantastic Jared Leto casting. But I want to talk about what our favorite POV is instead of the story, and why is it Breeze?
Look, I almost cast Jared Leto as Breeze just a second ago. And then I was like, wait a second, no, they really like Breeze. Don't do that.
I was afraid of that.
I'm going to get booted out of the podcast immediately.
And wow, we lost the rest of the audio for the episode. And that's where it ended. It's so weird.
Julie Who, unfollow. I like Breeze a lot, but honestly, my favorite is Elend in this book. I feel like this is his book.
It is his book, yeah.
He gets a new wardrobe. He gets a pretty woman makeover sequence.
He totally does. He goes like full Devil Wears Prada with Tindwyl. Like, there's totally, yeah.
He gets some leadership skills. He gets married. He gets some ass.
Spook listens, like it's a whole problem.
I was like, yeah, that is so awkward. That's when you don't want to be a 10-eye on this random honeymoon trek. You can't get away.
So you go with Elend, though, is your favorite POV?
Elend's my favorite from this book, yeah. I also liked him in the last book, too, just because, I mean, who doesn't love a guy that's reading at a party and being, like, 50% asshole? Great. It's just great. But, yeah, this, I really like. I feel like there's a lot of character growth, and he has a really interesting story. I mean, to the point where I would even say, like, he's, like, the main character of this book, in my opinion.
I totally think this is his book by and large. It focuses on him, and like Vin is sort of supplementary in a lot of ways. I think if you actually look at the POV chapter count, she has more, but the growth that we see is from both of them. But I think we see Elend change the most and have that core mission kind of drive him. I agree with you there. Yeah.
Sorry to detract from talking about Bree.
No.
I know you want to talk about it.
I giggled about it when I wrote the question. I was like, "What's your favorite POV and why is it Breeze?" I laughed when I wrote that myself. Yeah.
Why do you love Breeze? Let's talk about Breeze.
I think Breeze is a breath of fresh air inside of the story in a very different way. He's this comic relief character for the most part in Final Empire, but I think he gets like a real level of depth, and I think that he shows nuance behind soothing and the way that he really actually cares about people in a very base way. The way that he can't stop soothing all the time, the way that he just has to help people consistently as he like walks by to like either make them feel better or like fix a situation or like whatever he does. Even subconsciously, when he is cowering himself in a moment that is no doubt going to give him PTSD and a lot of other kind of lingering issues, he is still doing the right thing for the people around him and like innately helping people and encouraging them. I just think it just makes for such a compelling character, and his and Clubs' relationship in this book is, I love Vin and Ellen's relationship, but like secondary friendship. Like, that's such a cool friendship that's inside of the story.
I do love that, like, the first book kind of establishes Breeze and Ham as being, you know, like kind of this
buddy.
duo that like, likes to argue. But I love that this book was like, oh, you know, like, oh, he also hangs out with clubs. Like, it didn't just continue like, these are the two BFFs, you know, like it really solidified that, like, this is a core group. It's not just these two and these two, not that breaking off that I see a lot of other books do. But I was also like, well, I know Clubs is going to die because he's getting a lot of screen time.
Yeah. PJ didn't key into that right away. At the very least, you didn't talk about it.
PJ, you got to read more.
I got that. Like the chapter before, or the chunk before, where I got to read for 5 times all of that content with Breeze and Clubs, and then he died the next section.
Yeah, the way that I break this up also is traumatic for PJ. Let me be honest. I intentionally traumatize PJ with the way that I break these sections up. So
yeah,
maybe you should start anticipating my trauma that I'm handing you.
How am I going to anticipate that shit?
I don't know. Good luck.
Wait, so if you were fan casting Breeze, who would you cast?
Ooh, Breeze is tough.
So I actually have someone I'm really proud of my own head casting.
Yeah.
So if you watch What We Do in the Shadows,
yes,
I like the actor Matt Berry.
Matt
who
Berry
plays Laszlo.
Would make a
very good.
Great Breeze. My brain initially said Benicio del Toro, specifically because of his kind of roguish portrayal in The Last Jedi with the like rogue guy that he portrays. I think that gives off some kind of the sneaky vibe that you want from Breeze, but at the same time, a regality. There's like a question there. But I do like Matt Berry better, I think.
So I've got a weird one for this because
Jared Leto?
No, because of his age. So he's 35, I believe.
Who? Oh, Breeze.
Breeze is 35.
Breeze is in his 40s, isn't he?
I don't think so. He's not that much older. Allraine says that I think she says he's 35 at one point during this book.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I don't know him to have done any like serious roles, like non-comedic roles, but I think Jonah Hill could do a good job with it.
Not a bad call.
I think he's actually a very good actor. And yeah, that's pretty good casting. I like that, PJ. Good choice.
Thank you. Validation.
Crossing.
Take
as
notes.
Good as Jared Leto, but
yeah, as long as it's not Jared Leto.
Yeah.
PJ, what were you saying? Do I need to like
be nicer to me?
Oh, okay. All right. I will make that a mid-year resolution that I will promptly ignore.
No, you.
No,
that's a good choice. I feel like Jonah Hill. Like I would want an actor that's both good with comedy and with drama because Breeze, especially in this book, he gets both. Right. And having that, I hate to call it a meltdown, but it just kind of falls apart at the end. Yeah. Which, of course, like I liked. It made him very human. And he's not the strongest member of the group physically, but I love that he still at least pitches in. He could very easily leave and he does not.
Yeah.
Breeze is great, but I picture Ellen as Timothée Chalamet, so he's automatically my favorite.
That's fair. I feel like he's got a little bit more of a stronger jaw, if that makes sense, like a more like jutted persona. I can see the
like
Timothée
Jared
Chalamet.
Leto.
No, I'm trying to think of like who I picture Alan as. I feel like, man, the guy who plays Rand in The Wheel of Time is close-ish. A younger Armie Hammer. Yeah, those are kind of like my mental pictures for the most part, but I haven't fan casted Alan in my own brain. It's just not one. I don't know. Maybe it's because I self-idolize myself as Ellen. The loner of the party.
You picture yourself?
Yeah. But like 10 years ago, because like 20, like the age. Yeah. Anyway, now that we got that egocentrism out of the way.
So my favorite point of view is not Breeze. Also, I think it could have been Zane if we gotten more of it.
Zane's POV is fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun,
You're
especially with
those
God.
emo vibes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But with God jutting in all the time, telling him to kill people, like you just see this torture, like this internal torture that he's going through constantly. But given that we only get a little bit of that, I'm not going to pick Zane. Sazed, I think, is my favorite.
Sazed is, yeah. This book turns Sazed from a great side character, like an incredible side character, into a fantastic main character.
Yeah, he definitely goes main character in this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I will say from the read along, I said, there really wasn't a favorite, but as far as like strong feelings, I felt like the strongest feelings that people had were for Sazed. And I mean, we start at Hero of Ages, and I always start off like, who's your favorite character? Who would you be most upset if they died? And people were like, he better not kill Sazed. I will cry.
What happened to him is arguably worse.
Yeah.
Like, he is just completely broken. In basically every facet of his life, everything that he held dear, professionally and personally, is just gone.
Death would have been better for Sazed, kind of, in its own way. Fuck.
Well, this just got depressing.
It would bring the mood down, but at the same time,
so
Sazed's,
Jared Leto.
yeah, like literally anything else. No, Sazed is definitely one of the best characters in this novel and one of the most interesting. He's set on the most deep journey, kind of in his own way, that he gets to like explore religion. And this book tackles faith in a couple of different ways. It tackles faith from the perspective of Vin and like her being the Arab survivor. And then it also tackles faith from this idea of the contradicting ideologies that Sazed holds inside and the way that kind of breaks down. There's a lot in this book about faith. I just want to pose the question kind of openly. How did you guys take that? Like, what were your takeaways regarding this?
I mean, I thought it was, once again, like, I think Brandon Sanderson is such a good writer. I know he's a very devout Mormon, and I feel like to write a series like this, which does stuff like present very different faiths and beliefs, but also like scrutinizes them, tears them down. He gets really introspective, and at this point in the series is presenting this idea of like, you just, faith doesn't always hold up, which,
right,
like I said, what I know about him being devout Mormon, I was like, I really didn't expect. And I think, it's something that elevates the series beyond just being, pure popcorn entertainment. It's a fun book to read, but it is that angle of it presents something that, you can have really heavy discussion with the people you're reading with. I was like, this could be something that you could read in a college class and discuss. It's something that there's not really a solid answer you will come out with. You will go round and round and round, which, like I said, is really interesting for a fantasy series.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the purpose of it in its own right? Like it's not meant to, I'm trying to simplify it for the sake of like our conversation, but at the same time, it demands to not be simplified. It demands to have this complexity to it. And I think that's, for someone of whom is a devout member of their religion, that is, like, you can even read like Ender's Game and some of the later books, and like you can get peeks into the ideology like feeding through. And this is like a clear coat of paint over his thoughts with religion in general.
Mm-hmm. I mentioned this yesterday when we were talking, Crossland, so I won't rehash it too much.
No,
but I think,
I'm just kidding.
This would be a very fun point of conversation. Fun point of conversation to have with Brandon Sanderson, if we were to be able to sit down with him and like ask him about the writing process in this book in general, and see if writing this book was either a product of or contributed to any change in his personal like relationship with his faith, even in a subtle way. Like if there was any personal influence there just from the process of writing this character, this story, because it's super heavy in that detail. I don't know.
Yeah, that would be, I feel like, yeah, really interesting. I would love to see how he answered that. Because yeah, reading it, I was thinking, yeah, that I was thinking like this, like he must be someone who actually does like sit down and think pretty heavily about his faith and not just like blindly accept everything. And, you know, I'm not a Mormon. I don't really understand it, to be honest. Not something that speaks to me, but yeah, from what we see about Mormons is that they are, and people of faith in general, is that they blindly accept things. And with this series, I was like, wow, he really does ask some pretty deep questions. And to have a character like Sazed, who is definitely, I mean, in the first book, the most, well, I guess you would say committed to the idea of there being different faiths and stuff, to have him completely lose his faith, I thought was such like a bold, like story choice. And once again, spoke to Sanderson. I think you're seeing somewhat into him as a person, and at least this idea that, yeah, he is someone who asks questions, whether that maybe strengthened his faith, I don't know. But yeah, it would be interesting to see how much of him like went into this book or went into the series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's really tough to parse, and I think that it's one of those books that challenges a lot of those thoughts and ideologies across the board. So it's tough to talk about without getting into the results of what Sazed is going to go through, because clearly he's set on a path now. Like this is setting up the third book for Sazed in a large part. He has to go through a trial and tribulation related to this depression and losing Tindwyl and his sort of stake in faith in general. And this is kind of a fascinating loop throughout the story, because in the end we find out that the faith has also been manipulated. Like that's a huge point here, is that an entire religion has been manipulated for over 1,000 years to lead to this point, to releasing this beast from the Well of Ascension, this creature, this thing from the Well of Ascension. It's been manipulating a people, and Quan could even see it way back when, and even his writings were tortured and lamented, and it, man, it's so good. I don't even know how to parse it. I love this book. I love it. It's one of my favorite. It's in my top 3 Sanderson books, I think.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Spicy take. Might be third.
Okay. But. So to take this conversation back to the silly.
I'm in on silly.
So going back to like Brandon Sanderson being a Mormon, I know I listened to your episode with Lindsay where you discussed what's the first book called? The Final Empire?
Yeah.
This was talked about a little bit, I know, in that episode, but were either of you disappointed that Vin and Alan like never made out at any point?
Yeah. It's like a fucking cold shower, and I agree with Lindsay in all contexts on that. This is the spice is there. Like just unlock, like turn the key, damn it. Like
I get with the first book, like they're getting to know each other. I get it. But with the second book, I was like, good God, they're side hugging. Like, come on. At some point, these two would at least make out.
Well, and Brandon, like, at the same time, like, sidesteps the, like, fade to black trope to some degree with, like, the fade to the morning after, which is interesting, but still feels cheaty, you know, in its way with that 10.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I say this, I really don't want to I don't think Brandon Sanderson writing smut I don't think it would be good. And, you know, it's not everyone's strong suit, but I'm at least like, come on, like, just a make out, like, it doesn't have to be explicit.
Do you think he would write a sex scene?
It gets ridiculous.
In the same style as his combat scenes? And would anybody read anything after that? Like, would anybody pick up the book after that? I don't know.
I mean, at this point, we're basically in a cult, so yeah, I would probably still read it.
I'm sure, yes, yeah.
Like, how much should I spend on that Kickstarter? Yeah, I'd probably read it.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
But I would be laughing my ass off. Yeah, like, I get that it's not his strength. I'm not asking for, I don't 50 Shades of Mistborn. Like, doesn't have to be like that. But yeah, the side hugging and they just like Vin sits on his lap. They get a tent scene. Yeah, you're right about like, it's cut to the morning after and like Ben's got her tits out. He doesn't even say that, but right. we know she does. That's all we get.
Yeah.
Him and poor Spook just awkwardly sitting outside.
There, yeah. We said so much about that Spook scene that we'd like cut for time for that episode that it ended up in our like bonus Devil's Cut thing, and it was like almost a 20-minute conversation about how unfortunate it is to be Spook in that moment.
That's what I feel like. That's when he really started to be like, you know what? I made a coward's choice. Before he's like, this is right. I need to get out of here. And then, yeah, after everything he heard, he's like, oh my God, what have I done?
Oh man. Okay, so we've skipped around like a lot of characters and we talked about a lot of like side things. I do want to talk a little bit about Vin, and we can lead in with this book is sexless, but I think at the same time I do want to talk about like Vin's path through the novel. What'd you guys think about that?
I was a little, I honestly don't know how to feel about the sort of love triangle that's going on with Elend and his brother Zane. I felt like the whole book, I was like, oh my, please don't turn this into Vampire Diaries with the Salvatore brothers. And it's like he did, but he didn't. I feel like Brandon Sanderson also was like, I don't really know. Maybe she's into Zane. Maybe she's not. At the end, I wasn't even. I don't know how she felt about him.
I think that from a thematic level, we can think about the love triangle to some degree. Is this was offering up Kelsier as an option to her to some degree, as like this is the powerful Mistborn that you maybe felt like you missed out on as a relationship. Like Kelsier was dad. Like I'm not saying that, but there's a form of Kelsier that she feels like she probably could have
Did
married.
You say Kelsier was daddy?
I said dad. I specifically said dad. But you said daddy, so Kelsier is daddy.
If you didn't say it, I was going to.
Look,
I tried my hardest.
I'll print T-shirts. Yeah, Kelsier would love this and his cult he has going on.
From the afterlife, he's like, fuck yeah.
Like Crossland, at first I was so against Jared Leto as Kelsier, but now that we're getting into this real like the cult aspect and Kelsier's daddy shirts, yeah, for sure, Jared Leto can play him now.
Is daddy?
Oh no, not another one. We've had so many characters lately go daddy on the podcast, and like people latch into that in our mentions. So.
Look, if I ever meet Brandon Sanderson and get to ask him a question, I'm going to be like, how do you feel about anyone saying Kelsier is daddy? And just see him look totally horrified.
He'll just be like, he doesn't have kids. Like that, that being his response. He's just unaware.
All right, I'm sorry, I so derailed that.
No, you're perfect.
It's so good. It was necessary derailment. We were just talking about like Vin's trajectory, and so we moved into kind of the question of like that love triangle and Zane's kind of tangential relationship and then relating it to Kelsier and like the powerful Mistborn. Yeah, that's it.
I think part of my issue with that whole love triangle thing is
it's more like an obtuse angle if we think about it. It's not really a triangle. It's like, whoop.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the sort of split decision on Vin's point of view of like kind of falling for this guy that's not Elend. I think there's a lot that's left off the page that we should have gotten. I think there are a lot more scenes and a lot more time with Zane that she's probably pulling from, and we just have no idea about it, because it feels like even his obsession with her, even so, like, obviously it's a little bit one-sided and he's reading more into it than he should be, but it feels way more like that. And I don't think that's necessarily deserved. I bet there's a lot more interaction that we don't know about. So that's kind of my read on that, is what's not being said here and what's been left out, because we know she meets with him pretty regularly, and we only get a handful of interactions in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that it's one of the weaker parts of the book because of that. And yeah, maybe if it was fleshed out more. I like that angle of, like, Vin is having to choose between embracing being a Mistborn and finding someone who can understand that aspect of her. I like all the parts with Zane being like, hey, you're being used as a weapon, and Ellen doing shit that proves that. But yeah, I felt like when it comes down to the, like, romantic angle, I just was like, either you commit to it or you don't do it. I guess well, Zane is crazy, so it's really hard to tell if this is like a romantic, like he's into her. But with Vin, I was like, no, she's into Ellen, even though they can't communicate to save themselves.
Yeah. I feel like even if you remove the romantic angle on it, it still feels like there's not enough there to justify Vin even considering leaving Ellen to go with him away from the city. Like, even if there was nothing romantic involved there at all, it still feels like a weak motivation.
I think the biggest complaint from my read-along that people had with this book was the Ellen and Vin miscommunication, or even, I guess, lack of communication. It wasn't even miscommunication. They just didn't talk, and the excuse being they were both busy. So yeah, I feel like, I don't know, but that's such a major part of the book. I'm like, how do you take this out? You kind of have to have it.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like, to me, there's that one scene that happens with Sazed, right, where, like, they move back and forth, and it's almost like Elvis and Costello, or like Monty Python-esque, where it's like Vin's in the room talking to Sazed, and then Ellen's in the room talking to Sazed, and, like, Tyndall's, like, being bounced around outside. And I love that scene for what it is, but it also epitomizes their lack of ability to communicate, which is so important for this critical relationship you're about to enter, in which you're sharing everything, that it does feel a little bit quick to come around and, like, make all of the other decisions without, like, seeing a little bit more communicative or emotional growth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also really like that scene. It was funny. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm, like, I think hesitant to be like, yes, throw this completely out of the book. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe if Ellen was doing more than side hugging her, we wouldn't have these issues.
You're not wrong. Man. Yeah.
But back to Zane. So and this is, like, unintentionally funny to me, him stabbing her in the side boob.
Yeah, that was weird.
At the same time.
I didn't expect this from a Brandon Sanderson novel.
That action, that scene in and of itself, we cut that because we, like, barely parsed through it at the time. I mean, people were like, you didn't talk about, like, her getting stabbed and, like, kissed at the same moment. And I was like, well, it was unintelligible. You wouldn't have liked it. But now we can talk about it. That moment is fucked up because it's like stabbing her and kissing her at the same time. And you're like, he's like, I have to kill you kind of. It's just, man. It's like Emperor Palpatine to Anakin levels of fucked up emotional abuse.
Because he kissed him and stabbed him in the side boob too.
It's totally the same.
The side boob stab just doesn't make sense to me.
That was a deleted scene.
It was.
The side boob Yeah.
It just doesn't.
That's when I was officially like, well, Zane's out. Go back behind the counter at Hot Topic, Zane. This is over.
Go sell skateboards and goth socks. Yeah. Any other thoughts on Vin inside of this book? The assumed hero of ages?
So there's the
I'll
comment.
Just say, like,
oh, sorry. Go for it.
Oh, go ahead, PJ.
Okay. There's the comment towards the end from Sazed who talks about how she must have been like pewter dragging for months. Mm-hmm. And it's make me want to go back and see if she ever actually sleeps on page at all. Or if she is just straight up awake for months at a time. I don't know.
She talks about falling off and like being close to sleep, but every time she quote sleeps, quote, she like jumps up almost immediately in action. So it seems as though she's never like experiencing deep sleep on a reread.
Okay.
That just from me. It's fine. It's not fact or anything.
I don't remember.
Yeah, it's fine.
That's the other thing. Actually, that brings up a point that feeds into the Vin Elend conversation. They have separate bedrooms, don't they?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Shocker.
Yep. Okay.
They're side hugging, PJ. They would be like the 50s sitcom with the twin beds separated.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's that episode in WandaVision that I'm just imagining right now where they have the separate beds
same.
entirely. Yeah. Good night, Vin. Good night, Ellen. Yeah.
I'm like, look, there's not even.
Anything.
I don't know. We could talk about this all night. I'm like,
Anything.
why?
Yeah.
Why the weird? It's like all forehead kisses. Or he'll always. I feel like Sanderson always goes with the description is always like he kissed her passionately, and that's all we get. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Didn't sound passionate.
Right. Sanderson is self-described as like writing as though you're like viewing through a window pane and like you get to put whatever you want on it. And sometimes it's like, yeah, but I want to hear your flourish. I want to hear your like spark on this. What's your extra little, sauce on top of this? So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I understand that. Speaking of, though, we've been talking a lot about Vin. Let's talk about Allraine, who's kind of her foil in a way inside of this novel. I find Allraine fascinating from a character perspective. PJ does not trust her.
I do not like this character. I do not like this person.
I feel like Mistborn is not the. I mean, I haven't read all of Sanderson's work, but I don't think it's his best representation for female characters. I just felt like with this book in particular, all the women characters did not like each other, which I'm just like, there's like really only 3 here.
Yeah, there's only 3, right.
Yeah, can we not just have some sort of friendship between at least 2 of them? But yeah, Allraine, I still don't really know how I feel about her. I do like this idea that you have this character who's presented and she presents herself as being a ditz, but clearly is not. Clearly is, this like really strong character. But I don't know how you guys feel about the age gap between her and Breeze, but it's a little uncomfy. But I will say too, like Breeze is uncomfy with it, but does that make it okay?
She's an adult though.
She's 18. Isn't she?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, but if we're going into that, we have to have the conversation about the fact that Vin was 16 when she started seeing Elend.
True.
Like,
I think it was such an interesting choice to like have Breeze and Allraine be a couple, but also have Strath Venture be, on
like
To Catch
opposite,
a Predator.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Chris Hansen walking in like, hey, have a seat.
PJ has cited Chris Hansen so many times inside of this podcast for Lysander, Straff, and Elend once.
Elend once.
Ellen.
Hey, Ellen
Yeah.
was 21. She was
lied.
17 when they met.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I would say I actually like the choice that Straff is just this, I mean, totally disgusting pedophile.
Yeah.
But Breeze at least is like hesitant. And it is very clear that she is like the one trying to get with him. So
But we
I'll
also
give it
know
a pass, but
we also know that this is something that she has personally, like, intentionally rioted out of him. Like, he was uncomfortable with this, and she basically, I hesitate to say forced, because they're very clear about rioting and soothing, not actually changing anybody's feelings, but just kind of enhancing them. So
Suppressing or raising. Yeah.
yeah, well, I guess you could say, like, I mean, obviously there's consent there. Like, he knows
Yeah.
what she's doing. I mean, I guess you could say there's consent. But yeah, that was another thing that came up in my read along was like, how do we feel about Breeze and Allraine? And it was pretty mixed.
yeah, she carries herself as a spy from the beginning and never proves herself otherwise. Like,
I think her father, Set, is also an interesting, like, do I trust this guy?
Is
It's a
he
family
good guy?
trait.
Right.
so
He's not, but he's also somewhat likable at times.
yeah, what I really appreciate about him is his conviction. He is consistent through and through. Everything that he says never gets, like, contradicted. You know, like, he admits he's not a great person, but he has justifications for it, but he never backs down from it, even when confronted in a very hostile way from Vin. She's like, yeah, you're not the man that Ellen is. He's like, yep, you're right. Absolutely. And I've said this before.
He's honest to a fault, like, truly. And I think that's really compelling, because I think a lot of characters say, like, oh, or like feel like they're honest to a fault. But I think that Set is really looking out for himself in the most direct and literal sense. And, like, there's no other interpretation of what he's doing. He's not playing back alley games for the most part. He's just honest. And sometimes that honesty comes through a lens of like, neutrality to, like, negative, like, badness. What a word choice. You know, he's fascinating. I love Set.
He is, like, epitomizes that what you see is what you get. Like, he doesn't really have, like, hidden motives and stuff, which is why I feel like he throws Vin off so much. She's so hell-bent on this idea that he is a Mistborn.
I was with
to
her.
the point of
PJ was on that. PJ was like, he's fucked. He was super angry.
But that, once again, PJ, when you read a ton of books, you can see all this stuff coming. I was like, there's no way he's going to be like, this someone who's just completely honest. But, and yeah, I thought that was a great scene where Vin kills a lot of people. Zane talks her into it. And she's just so, like I said, hell-bent on this idea that either him or his son have to be Mistborn, and neither of them are, which, sets off it's not going to work out with Zane. He works for Hot Topic. I can't be with him.
He works in a dilapidated mall.
A guy that works at Hot Topic, guy that
commands a kingdom.
Was king. Yeah.
The deposed king, now emperor.
The deposed king. Who are you going to choose? I mean, it's the dumbest. It's an easy choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there Zane fans out there?
Are there? I don't.
Would anyone actually choose Zane over Ellen?
That's a great question. I think that Zane's story is so tragic in its own right, especially when you consider that there's obviously, like, some other manipulation, and being one of Straff's children and one of these unfortunate, like, half Ska-born children that are treated so poorly by him. Man, his story is, like, laden with tragedy, but at the same time, he never chose to overcome it because he saw instead his ability to overcome through power as opposed to through any kind of emotional growth, like a proper emo kid from the Midwest that never changes.
So
we can identify with him, but doesn't mean I have to like
some
him.
guy who only listens to Jimmy Eat World and cries in his basement alone all the time.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No one understands me.
No one gets me. I'm so sad.
regarding that sort of, or not Vin, Zane Ellen thing again, I'm upset by the fact that we get Ellen saying brother ? And then never addressing it again. Like, she drops this bomb on him that she almost left him for his brother that he didn't know about and was
Barely reacts.
a Mistborn. Barely reacts, never readdresses it. It's so much information for him to take in.
He got distracted by getting married and finally having sex with his wife.
For all we know, they just side hugged the whole time. So
that is true.
We don't really know.
That is true. There's no confirmation.
It's tragic.
Now I'm going to ask
Painted
Brandon at a convention or something. Did they actually have sex or did they just side hug the whole time?
Because it felt like maybe an aggressive side hug. Like,
Yeah, while I'm wearing a shirt that says Kelsier is daddy. He's going to be like, who is that? The Foxy Reader? Please don't ever let her anywhere near me again.
please ensure that she doesn't show up to any future signings. Thank you.
Is it better to wear a Kelsier is daddy shirt to meet with Brandon Sanderson or to just send him one?
That's what you have to do. That's the answer.
I feel like if we send him one, like I'm never going to get any confirmation he received it until like maybe 10 years from now.
Honestly, it's worth it.
Tell the story. Worth it.
It's so good.
Yeah, we got to mass produce these t-shirts.
I think we've struck marketing gold with Kelsier's daddy, and we could absolutely mass produce these and get them out to the fans that are rabidly awaiting Daddy Kelsier merch.
Yeah, I mean, people like Kelsier. This would be a pretty big seller.
I'm sure. What would be the accompanying image? Is it just like something like Kelsier's daddy, or is it like, I don't know.
Yeah, I was trying to think if it needs to be like a kind of thirst trappy fan art.
Is it like with chest hair out and like, I don't know. I'm thinking about it.
It could just be he's like Mistborn cloak only.
Oh, there it is. Sexy Kelsier daddy with a mist cloak only. Yep. That totally.
Yeah, and then you get the chest hair peeking out.
That works perfectly. That's definitely.
I'm going to contact whoever did some of that Lord Ruler fan art and be like, hey, can you please do this?
Here's what I'm looking for. I'll pay you 5%. And I'll pay you up front for the design. Please help me.
This is the stupidest shit to come out of
You know what?
Kelsier's daddy.
We fucking do this all the time, and we love the stupid shit out of our show. It's always the best.
Yeah, that's the best part of these conversations.
Right. The way it devolves properly.
Like I can't believe we've been talking so long about this book. Not that long, but long enough that nothing has come up about the Kandra, really.
Fuck.
I don't know how to pronounce their names.
Kandra, Kandra, it's fine.
Sur.
Or Sur.
Or Sur.
Yeah.
And that twist threw me for a loop. I screamed out loud, laughed, and then actually clapped. I was like, the Kandra's the Kandra.
Genius.
It's just that whole book being like, who is the Kandra? And then I got down. I was like, is it Spook? He's like the only one she hasn't cleared. And then it was Kandra. And I was like, oh, that is clever. Way to go, Brandon.
Yeah, we totally feel cheated. Way to go, Brandon. It just feels so let's go Brandon-y to me.
I know.
Right.
Way to go, Sanderson.
That's better.
I was really expecting the Kandra to be one of the mistings. And like this was something overlooked that OreSeur didn't know that they could have allomantic abilities. That's what I was really expecting to happen. But I really enjoyed the reveal. I was happy with it.
You were blown away. And you'd been on to like the nature of the Kandra the whole time, but you weren't quite there. You were just like just a step away. And I was just sitting there the whole time like, hee hee hee. You're never gonna figure it out. That's so great.
I don't know if anyone could figure that out.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like if someone was like, yeah, I totally guessed who it was, I'd be like, you are full of shit. I don't believe it.
You Googled it. Yeah. I didn't on my first read through. I was like, I have no fucking clue who it is. Marsh? My brain jumped to like weird tangential characters.
There was with the way that the scene is set up, there was a split second where I was like, wait a second, Zane is the Kandra? Because that to me was more believable than, it's the,
sorry.
Yeah, I don't know, it's whatever his name is, OreSeur.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, well, who I thought was OreSeur. It's not actually him.
Right. PJ was stuck for a period on it being Elend, and I was like, it would feel so cheap if we were in Elend's perspective, and it was Elend, and then it was actually a Kandra.
I had a second where I thought that. PJ, if that makes you feel better.
It does, thank you.
I was like, oh, maybe it could be him. That would be a pretty big betrayal or change for Vin, but I was like, maybe that's why he's side hugging so much. Maybe the Kandra don't make out.
They've got weird tongues.
Oh my god.
He's got a weird tongue. He's very self-conscious about it.
They have to slide on all of the fur and everything else and the bones, and then the tongue is like something that they generally forget, and they're like, oh, it's nice and meaty, so I typically eat that. I don't...
He didn't want to dive into Vin's mouth. He was self-conscious. Well, okay, so I like hate to admit this, but also I don't. So after I finished the book, I was like, there's gotta be some like raunchy fan fiction out there for Mistborn, because it is just so like you said, cold shower.
Yeah. And
yes, there is. And some of it I was like, there's just still too much with the Kandra that, I was like, oh my God, if Brandon Sanderson ever saw this, he would actually die.
He would faint immediately. Yeah, I haven't dug in, partially originally because it was out of fear of spoilers for Era 2. I guess I could do that now, but...
There's someone on AO4 Archive of Our Own who wrote an entire series that every chapter was about a new character losing their virginity. Like they went through each of the characters and how they each lost their virginity. And at first I was like, oh, that's so cringy. And then I was like, you know what? That's not a bad idea for a series.
It's kind of good.
Yeah, right. This is actually a good idea.
We've had conversations about using allomantic abilities in the bedroom before. So I feel like it's perfectly, like it perfectly lends itself to fan fiction in that way.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, because okay, so you picked Tin. We had a long conversation about Tin in the bedroom specifically.
Yep.
I mean, I feel like that could benefit me. I don't know how that's going to benefit the other person.
It's an internal benefit. Yeah. Entirely.
Yeah, that's actually why I picked 10. Okay, now that I'm a second beer in, I'll admit it. The gossip was all a smoke screen. I'm just in it for the sex.
My God.
Which of the other ones would be good?
Rioting, in theory.
Okay, yeah, that's
A-Team
good.
would be good. Yeah, A-Team could work.
A-Team.
You could see what they're gonna do
Yeah,
next.
you're like, okay, let's play.
Don't
play
do
into
that.
this. Yeah, no, it might be too much.
Whatever you're thinking, don't do that.
You don't want to warn them off of it. You just want to adjust so that I wouldn't. Yeah, anyway.
That works. Don't do that.
Okay, so that's 18. What else would be interesting? I think we said
Depending on how well you could control it, steel and iron in like a binding setting could
we did
work.
hit that. You know, it just gets so deliciously raunchy so easily that you can imagine all over the place.
Wait, could you Duralumin blast an orgasm?
That's exactly what I brought up.
Yeah, that's
with tin.
That's exactly like it's a tin blast.
All right. Well, I'm glad I chose 10. This going to work out pretty well for me. I'm all like, this isn't useful. I'm just stupid. No, I made the best decision.
Yeah, it's a good choice.
Perfect spy and otherwise.
I want every single one of your like full book wrap ups to somehow get back to this conversation.
It will.
Now you're 2 for 2. Yes. So the third book, you better somehow work that into the conversation.
Somehow I don't imagine it going that way with the guest we've booked for the third one, but I will press it regardless.
Float the idea out there.
I must. I just, damn it, we have to. We hit elementic ability, and then we hit elementic abilities in the bedroom, the top and bottom of the episode as kind of a rule that it's got to be.
Yeah, I cannot believe this actually never came up in the read-alongs I did, and I'm shocked.
Fascinating.
With the people who are in them.
So now you've got a thing to talk about with Hero of Ages by the end.
We have one more chat left. I'm like, forget the rest of the book. What do you guys think?
Now that we've gone through everything.
What metal would you burn in the bedroom?
I mean,
people, they would love this question. So thank you all. I appreciate it.
Of course. We didn't talk about it, but pewter has its own thing here in the bedroom where like pewter is also finesse, and like burning pewter is like this kind of like finesse thing, which could benefit. And
you could go for a while.
Yeah, there's all kinds of reasons for pewter to work. And now, like, if we think about the end of this book, you've got 2 Mistborns in Ellen and Vin, and you're just like, well, man, we talked about this in one of the episodes a couple of weeks ago, but we were like, it's a coward move in a fantasy series to not talk about your magic system in the context of sex, especially when you've got 2 users and pairing. Like, I get it, Sanderson, but this is how you could.
Now we have 2 Mistborns together, so this
never came up in the fan fiction.
So what you're saying is we have a market.
Yeah, I think you have a really good idea here, and yeah, definitely. I feel like all the 3 of us, like, let's write our individual fan fictions or smutty fan fictions.
Uh-oh.
And then, we'll see what plays best.
All right. Deal.
All right. So there's one more question, if you're okay with that. I know that we just hit the
yeah.
Okay, cool. So the well, right? And I know that you kind of know some of the answer here, but we have to at the very least talk about this. What predictions, PJ, do you have moving into the next book? And what do you guys think about the I am free moment? I said this in our wrap-up episode, but in our previous episode, but it reminded me of like in Aladdin 2 when Jafar is finally freed from the.
I said the exact same thing. I was like, this is Jafar from Return of Jafar.
Yes, entirely. I got the same vibe. I had that exact same response last night when we were talking about it. Oh, it's the same. Yep. Okay. Yep. All right.
I think we're definitely from the same generation.
True.
Because once people in the read along I did also were like, he's like an evil genie. He's like Jafar. Like, that's what I thought.
Definitely. Yeah. But PJ, where do you land?
I mean,
Julie knows too much.
What do you mean by where do I land?
Like, what do you think is, what predictions do you have heading into the next book? Like, what do you think this thing is?
God, I don't know, man. There are so many things that I could pull from, but it all feels like it could be entirely separate, like the mists.
Sure.
And the mist spirit. And is the mist spirit that we're dealing with at the end of the book the only mist spirit? Or were there others that were more nefarious and less helpful? How do they relate to this, whatever the fuck it is? How long has it been since this thing has been trapped? Has it ever been out? Like, but
it sounded like it was going out on the town at the end.
Yeah, it's gonna have a good time.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal. Totally.
It was like, look, happy hour ends in 5. I gotta go.
I'm ready to go.
Did you guys, like, how did you feel about the ending? Both of you. Were you, like, shocked? Did you see stuff coming?
I got focused on the things that we haven't addressed yet. And I know we will. Like the map that's imprinted in metal down there and all of the canned food. And I started thinking about that bead of metal that she feeds to Elend. And I'm assuming
I called
that...
it the... I called it the Mistborn multivitamin.
That's a great name for it. Yeah. That's amazing. My assumption is that this calls back to what Sazed saw at the Conventicle of Saren. The different metal, like I think he refers to it as spikes of a different metal, and it's just left at that. So I'm assuming it's the same metal, which is going to be an alloy of atium that's used as the linchpin for the Steel Inquisitors.
Interesting.
And that's where all the atium goes.
Okay.
But
Hmm.
that's what I got thinking about, was all the stuff that we didn't address in that walk to the well.
You're piecing it together like a puzzle. My thought was a little bit more, it's so fascinating that Brandon Sanderson has two different climaxes and ends to this novel. Like, it could have ended at the end of the Battle of Luthadel, and instead it ends in this well moment. And the well feels more like a almost Marvel-esque teaser to the next book in its own way, where it's like, okay, well, here are all the things that you're going to want to, like, read for the next book. Like, are you ready? I don't know. I really enjoyed the end, and it teases kind of a larger cosmological threat than we've seen really before. And it also, like, it begins to tease out this idea that the Lord Ruler was right. Like, I don't know. That was kind of, I think, my first gut reaction to some degree when I read this was, oh, like, shitty, made bad choices, but I don't know.
I think we should start a Lord Ruler Apologist Club.
I think we did at the beginning of the show. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, I knew he wasn't that bad. Okay.
And he was hot. Rashik was great. He's old, but he's attractive.
He was hot. Yeah, that was something in the first. Yeah, with the first book with the read along, I was like, you guys, the fan art, he's hot, and people who had read the book were like, was he? And I was like, once I finally got to it, I was like, okay, well, he's really old, but like, he's still hot.
But like, sometimes he's really hot, so like, that's okay.
Most of the time, not even sometimes. Right. Most of the time, he's really hot.
Have you?
Yeah. Once again, the vindication was coming in. I was like, yeah, he wasn't that bad. He only subjugated an entire population and killed a lot of people, but he wasn't that bad.
I'd argue that he didn't do that. He just kind of didn't care he was completely apathetic of everything that was happening around him.
When you've been alive for that long, you're like, whatever.
You're kind of just like,
whatever, dude.
Yeah. You guys can go fuck whatever, and we'll deal with it later. I don't need this right now. I'm hungover. I'm going home. The Inquisitors will deal with you. Yeah. That's kind of the vibe that I got from the Lord Ruler.
That meeting between him and Carr and Vin's dad.
Yeah.
was like, it was just so much like, I don't give a shit. Figure it out.
In every meeting at work. Like, what? This could have been an email. What did you guys think? So my favorite part of the ending, and by favorite part, I mean, I laughed out loud, was whenever with like whatever the mist race like thing is that comes out of the well, and Ellen's like, hey, this is my friend. And it immediately stabs him. I cackled and then felt bad, but
well, it's like
Ellen, really?
All of the other Mist Spirit projections have not been malicious. They've been intentionally leading. And so it's this moment where he's like, oh yeah, I could go give it a hug. And
this is my best friend.
Yeah.
So
I met him over there at the bar, at the last bar that I was at. I met the Mist Spirit. He's super cool. Let's talk with him. He gets stabbed.
Immediately he gets stabbed.
I haven't done this, but I'd like to go back and reread the section where this same thing happens with Alendi.
Where it stabs his friend.
It stabs his friend.
Yeah.
So I'd like to... Does it kill his friend?
Very stabby.
It's a very stabby spirit.
It's a very That's why I'm curious. Like, is it the same spirit throughout the entire thing? Or is it like multiple different things? I know you guys can't tell me anything. I get it.
Here's a great question to posit, because neither of you have finished this series yet as it stands. I think that this is fun. Do you think that the Mist Spirit, or whatever is manipulating the text from the Well of Ascension, manipulated Alendi's logbook in the first book?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Could some of that be lies? You know, that's kind of it's a metatextual question now at this point, is like, how much of that could be untruth?
Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to explore that, because Crossland knows this. I fucking love rules and logic and mechanics.
He's a physicist.
And this opened up so many new things for me to like really ponder.
I feel like Brandon Sanderson is perfect for you then.
Exactly. I'm loving it. I'm really loving it.
Everything has a reason and way that it works, and it's not, he never just uses magic. It's magic.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's been very well suited for my tastes.
Fantastic. All right. Did you guys have anything else that you wanted to hit on? Julie, did you have any other questions? Do you feel like we missed anything?
I'm trying to think. Like I said, this was 2 weeks ago, but it feels like 2 years ago.
That's fair.
Can you see how we can quickly become like a 5-hour recording?
We've done
it. Yeah, this is like, it's a good series. So there's like a million things to talk about with it. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any. I know there's a lot that we did skip over. But yeah, to me, like, the ending of the book is really a huge strength. I feel like it has that kind of Empire Strikes Back type ending.
Yeah.
Yeah, where it's like, you guys fucked up. What do we do now? And I love that. I absolutely love when the heroes mess everything up. So, yeah. Well, that's my question, too, is, did you guys like this better than the first book?
Oh, for sure. I like it better than I like the third book, but I can say that because I've read the book and, whatever else. But I love the political intrigue, the character growth that you see on so many characters inside of this one novel in the page count is astounding. At this point, I've also read Stormlight. I had when I had originally read it, but it was definitely my favorite out the gate. And it's so funny because this is generally the least liked book in the trilogy. This is the book that is the most divisive. And I find that dumb. And I'll say that to everyone who's listening to this, because I think that your opinion is bad and you should feel bad. I'm just kidding.
But not really.
But maybe. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I don't know. I love this book. This is, again, I think it's executed flawlessly, almost. We've talked about the flaws, but...
Flawless side hugs.
Yeah. Fuck.
I like this book better than book one. And there are some complaints that I saw in our Discord specifically regarding like it being very repetitive at times, as far as like the rules of allomancy and stuff. And like, I just came out as a simp for rules, so maybe I can't be the one to speak to this, but I didn't feel like it was that repetitive at all. I felt like we got expansion on the mechanics and building on it, but I didn't feel like we really got straight up, like, let me explain this again from the beginning. But maybe that's a function of how we read this book and like how I go through this, that the fact that I read each section several times before moving forward means I'm like not sensitive to repetition. I don't know, but I loved it.
I didn't think it was too much repetition. I've also heard that complaint, but I think Brandon Sanderson does such a good job with like showing the mechanics of the magic and including it in the plot. So when he's going over like, well, hey, this is how this works again, it's more showing than telling. So it really didn't bother me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I'm with you.
Yeah. I didn't have a problem with it either. I think in general, compared to some writers, Brandon is a little bit more repetitive. And I think that's also born out of the time frame of release when this book was originally released and his adoration for Robert Jordan, of which this is kind of that flex novel between him starting to work on The Wheel of Time. And all three of these books, I should say, Mistborn, Final Empire, and Well of Ascension were written back to back to back. Hero of Ages, were written basically as like one giant novel. And then he kind of like broke them down after that. But yeah, I guess part of me thinks that it's a symptom of educating the audience and moving the genre forward as a whole to like making sure that people understand the magic. And I can understand people feeling like it's dated now, but I don't think at the time it was an irrelevant decision. I think it was really important. And at the same time, I don't feel like it's overwhelming. I don't feel like it's a problem.
I do feel like his writing has evolved a lot since he wrote this, which, you know, obviously it's been years since this came out. So naturally he will get better at writing. So yeah, there's times where I'm like, yeah, you know, I could see him doing this way better now, but yeah, I don't, like I said, with the repetition, I mean, you have, like, I appreciate starting the second book and trying to re-explain some of the stuff because once again, you know, like I'm reading them back to back, but people, when they were coming out, there was time in between. So you're always going to have that.
Yeah, you want to be cognizant of that audience. And like 3 years later is when he came out with The Way of Kings. And you can like, you obviously can see that and experience that growth in writing that's like happened between now and then. PJ will eventually understand, but it's fascinating to see this guy's trajectory over time.
Yeah. And I also think for the people that complain about the female characters in Mistborn, which I totally see the complaints and I agree with a lot of them. That's another thing I think he's gotten a lot better at. With Stormlight has better female characters. I also really think Skyward has much better female characters than Mistborn.
Yeah, Skyward has significantly better characters. Skyward is non-Cosmere PJ, so you don't have to stress that you're unaware of something.
Cool.
We won't be probably
PJ's like, wait, what?
He's like, what? There's another series that I'm unaware of? What's going on?
I really like Skyward. I think it's underrated.
I think it's fun. I really enjoyed it. I think it's also because he knows where this is going in the long term. It's him practicing writing sci-fi, you know, like and that's great. I think that's a smart move as opposed to jumping into the genre kind of blind. So, yeah. Yeah.
I also know he had beta readers that were like teenage girls.
Yeah.
Who helped him with developing, like, it is narrated by a teenage girl. So I get the feeling with Mistborn that he didn't really do that.
No, right.
Which to say, like, not that Vin is like this awful character, like, you know, you can tell she's written by a man. She's not that bad, but there has been so much growth in his writing since then.
She's not overtly feminine either. And I think that's partially because of like her trauma, because she is so like dehumanized by her experiences to some degree that it's hard to, you know, it's interesting. It's almost like a cop-out. Like he managed to create a situation in which he didn't need to write her that incredibly female because of the experiences that she had and how she reacted to them. So, yeah.
Yeah, but he plays with that with all of her, like,
For sure. Yeah.
she likes going to balls.
Yeah.
She likes dressing up, and it's not that black and white.
Right.
I feel like.
Yeah. Good. No. Good,
Which,
great
you
point.
know, that's the point he's trying to make too. I just feel like it's a little heavy-handed.
Yeah, definitely. God, I love this book. There's so much more to talk about.
It was a great ending. I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked the first one. I like this one a little bit more. I wouldn't say it's a drastic difference between the two.
Sure.
But I'm like you, Crossland. I love the political intrigue, which was something that a lot of people in my read along were like, this is boring. And they stopped talking about the siege and blah, blah. They want it to smut. I was like, you're not going to get it. Like side hugs till the end of time. But yeah, to me, the ending is really what elevates this over the first book.
Yeah. Damn. We didn't even talk about the fact that, like, Straff is, well, we did just briefly talk about, like, Straff being a piece of shit, but, like, his deserved ending is another moment inside of the first ending before we get to the second one. That's just like, man, I love the fact that he's just, like, brutally cleaved in half and, like, jaggedly. I think Brandon described these swords in his annotations as kind of dull. And so as she's, like, cleaving through him, it's not like a clean, like, even cut, like, movie. Like, it's more like a dull knife moving slowly through a steak. Ah, man.
I love that Straff is just he's like an over the top villain.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing good about him.
No,
I don't know how Ellen is just a really nice, normal person after being raised by that.
And that makes me want to meet his mom. You know, like, I wish that we got to meet whoever his mom was, because you can imagine that's probably
I also don't want to. I don't want to, because the amount of trauma that woman must have experienced.
Oh my God, you're right.
It's probably high.
Yeah. Being married to Straff, that like, birthing all, like, intentionally making mistings because he knows that he can do that with Scott, like, and then using them as, like, a private army. You know, it's a genius writing thing for, like, Brandon to have written into the story, but it is so functionally upsetting. Like, it dehumanizes Straff to a almost cartoonish degree. Like, it is.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think there's anything redeeming about him.
No.
Where, yeah, I mean, you can look at someone like Set, who's not a good person, but is so honest about it that you're like, I kind of like this guy. Like, like, maybe there's good parts, but yeah, with Straff, I'm like, God, this guy is the absolute worst. I did love, I did love that he's like, oh, Zane keeps poisoning me, and then he finds out that his 28-year-old saggy boob mistress is really the one poisoning him. That made me laugh out loud. I felt bad for her, but and I was like, this is something that probably could have been cut completely from this book. Did we need it? No. Was it entertaining? Yes. It felt very Game of Thrones.
It did. I think that adds that layer. PJ and I talked at length about the idea of, like, it would have been great justice for him to have actually died from that addictive drug, because he's kind of, like, simultaneously addicted to sex with these Scott mistresses and whatnot. And so it would have been a great kind of comeuppance. But at the same time, it might have felt a little bit cheap. But I feel like George R.R. Martin would have had him die at the hands of the mistress.
Yeah, I think so too. And he wants it. Yeah, I guess he's looking at how Brandon Sanderson writes versus George R.R. Martin. Yeah, that makes sense. But I definitely would have preferred if it was one of his mistresses that took him out. Yeah.
Yeah. God. Amaranta. Rip.
Kind of cool at the end.
No, she is.
At first I was like, God, this. Every time she showed up, I was like, this bitch. Like, come on, stop groveling. And then by the end, I was like, this bitch. She's awesome.
Bitch, she was doing. Yeah. She totally had it. Oh, man. God.
So close. She almost got him.
Almost. And it's so, man, the extra layer of fucked on top of that cake is welcome to my random.
This is a new phrase that needs to become a thing.
The extra layer of fucked on top of that cake is definitely when we find out that like Zane is sleeping with her, right? Like Zane, she has slept and bore children for Straff, but then is also sleeping with Zane later because Straff is a fuckhead. And oh my God.
I was like, get it.
Yeah.
It became her biggest fan all of a sudden, right?
Sleeping with the Molotov, you know, like sleeping with that Hot Topic boy. That's good for you. You probably needed that. So
I was like, he's trash too, but good for you.
It's still, you know, it's a step in the right direction, I guess. In the worst.
God, yeah.
Minuscule.
How bad is that when, the Hot Topic employee is preferable to
PJ is dying.
His dad.
PJ is just quietly giggling to himself.
Oh, so good.
Mm-hmm. See, so now you've experienced why these episodes can just go on forever because there's just so much fucking shit to talk about.
I have so many more things to say, and I'm...
I do a Midwest goodbye, okay? It's like an hour.
we're both from Minnesota, so like of course we're in the same boat. As I say, boat in the most Minnesotan accent ever. Send help. Fuck. Okay.
PJ, was there anything else you needed to talk about?
Yeah.
That you need to get off your chest?
Just more in-depth shit about Straff and his relationships and...
I like how Straff has taken up a huge chunk of our conversation. He's really not... I guess he's important for this book, but
right.
I mean, he dies in the end.
Yeah. Right.
It's cut in half.
There was a fun question that was posed inside of the Discord. We were sourcing additional questions kind of at the end. Who do you think, PJ and Julie, the hero of ages will be in the next book? And like, what does that mean? Like, what could that mean? Julie, you can choose to not answer this question, of course.
I feel like I know too much.
Right.
And
yeah.
Totally good. I think we've kind of proven, at least, or it's been maybe not proven, but posited that the entirety of the prophecy is bullshit anyway. So having a set hero of ages doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me anymore. So I think it's going to be more of a external path of righteousness for both Vin and Ellen to follow on their own together. So I think the two of them will strive to be the hero of ages as a team.
This is how I have to react to everything, Julie, for the record. Every time PJ says anything, I'm
just like,
and
keep a straight face, don't say anything.
Maintain.
For the longest time, we didn't do video at all for this reason. So Crossan could just mute his microphone and like externally like react to however I guessed things were going to go.
Yeah, I had a bad poker face.
This is another thing I loved about this book in particular was that, you know, like so many fantasy books are all about this chosen one trope. And then this book is like, oh yeah, your chosen one prophecy, maybe it's not what you thought it was.
Yeah.
I just thought that was once again like a really interesting turn for I read a lot of fantasy books, so it was nice to see the heroes destroy everything in the end and possibly doom everybody. I loved it. It felt to me like, you know, I said like that's an Empire Strikes Back ending. To me, it's like a Pierce Brown ending. It's like a Golden Sun, Dark Age. Like, what are they going to do? I don't know. I'm just going to go cry.
Right.
But it kind of ends with them side hugging, doesn't it? Did I make that up?
On the ramparts looking out as like Ellen's like, oh, I'm a Mistborn.
I'm Mistborn now. Side hug me.
Yes, side hug me, baby. It's just...
Side hug, but with powers.
Because I love that like really dark, like, oh shit, what did we do? But then it had like a fairly positive ending.
Yeah, right.
So we're renaming
side hug.
We're renaming the series. Book 1 is Kelsier is Daddy. Book 2 is Side Hug, but with magic.
The side hug of Ascension.
Side hug. There we go. No idea what the third will be, but I'm sure we'll figure something out.
Oh, man.
I just want to make custom dust jackets for those books now.
Yes, that's exactly what we need. We'll get nerdy.
Okay, but yeah, book 1, we're gonna Nerdy Ink could be like, hey, can you please draw Kelsier just in the mist cloak and nothing else for first book?
We just need it. You can blur out like the center, like Brandon would probably want, with like
Just
the letters.
the mist.
Yeah.
The mist will
mist.
cover his dick.
Oh no.
I'm gonna send Nerdy Ink this really like rudimentary illustration. This is what we're thinking.
Alexis will love that, I'm sure.
Yeah. Like, what the hell? Then once we tell her, she's like, yes, I see your vision.
Fantastic. All right. I can't imagine a better way to have curtailed this episode with this conversation about Daddy Kelsier and the well of side hugs, or the side hug of Ascension, whichever way you want to think about it.
Both of them work. I'm not sure which one I like better.
You know what? Okay.
Have
The well
people
of side
vote on
hugs
it.
feels like a hot tub.
That is the Brandon Sanderson hot tub experience. Only side hugs. Nothing else. Only side hugs.
Oh my God. I am dying. This was literally so much fun, and I could not have asked for a better time. This was fantastic. I feel like we didn't talk about Tyndall enough, but whatever, that's fine. She's here and gone.
She's great.
she's great. She died. Sazed, sad.
Man, her and Seiza didn't even side hug.
Well, they could only
Their hands touched.
The hand hug.
Yeah, there is that hand hug while they're like doing the robot mode of peeling through the copper mines. God, what a weird. How do you even send this off properly? Like, how does one transition out of this absolute lovely madness?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I just thank you so much for having me on. This has made my night.
Yes,
I'm about to go to a friend's birthday party, and these people who have not even read the book and be like, we were talking about Kelsier's daddy. You're going to be like, what?
What the fuck is that?
You got to read these books. There's no sex, only side hugs. Great.
All right. Well, okay. Where can people find you?
I'm on Instagram. I'm at TheFoxyReader. I'm also on Goodreads and The Storygraph. I post reviews there. I have a TikTok. I don't do much with it, but feel free to send me Johnny Depp TikToks because I'm really into that trial. No, just once again, thank you so much for having me on. This was so much fun. And yeah, I will let you guys know what I think once I get to the end of the next book.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much. So next week, we are going to be reading chapters Prologue through chapter 5. So it's about 67-ish pages, but that's going to be next week. So Prologue through chapter 5. So that's where we'll leave you for this week.
Thank you, as always, to Tim and Andrew, but also thank you to Julie. That was such a fun time. As she mentioned, you can find her at TheFoxyReader, I think, on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter. I can't remember what she said.
Yep.
Goodreads. Yep. Yeah, that was a blast. That was so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
But you can check us out on social media on blah blah blah. Retaking that after Foxy Reader. Also, you can check out the links in our show notes. You can find our schedule, Patreon, previous episodes, website, social media accounts, all in one convenient location. As far as our social media stuff goes, we are at Words Whiskey Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Reddit. Our email address is wordsandwhiskeyshow@gmail.com. And if you'd like to get in on this Patreon goodness, patreon.com/wordsandwhiskey.
leave me nothing to talk about except for the reviews. You're just like eating up my little bits. So definitely leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It makes a big difference in terms of the algorithm. If you haven't already subscribed, I think I talked about this last week, but again, we do have a fix coming in for the short pour feed. For whatever reason, it wasn't popping up on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher and Google Podcasts. We've since fixed that. Thank you, Miles Bensky, for pointing that out to us. I thought that I had submitted everything correctly. It turns out that it had bounced for some reason. So, because Apple didn't like our website configuration, so we fixed it. Needless to say, check it out there. Watch out for those short pours. We've got a number of things there, including that previous Howler Pod announcement and a couple of new fun things coming up this next month. So keep a lookout for one of those episodes next week on the Short Pour channel. We are going to be talking about our new show on the Atomic Pylon Network, Catacomb Party, Tales of Kana, with the wonderful Mathar, Josh, and Leslie, in addition to ourselves, introducing our characters and kind of giving you a brief overview of what to expect in that world.
It's so much fun. Such a fun project. Really, really excited for everybody to actually get to experience what we've been putting together for over half a year now.
Almost, yeah, actually, no joke. You know, there's always like the things are going on behind the scenes kind of thing, you know, that I think a lot of creators kind of get into and get stuck in. And we had a number of shows kind of fall behind, like our primary shows for patrons a little bit. And part of that reason is because of the amount of effort that we put into producing this show and working on it. Obviously, it made changes, but we truly love and adore this project. And I think you will too. It's definitely taken the priority as far as launching shows go before doing Speculative Knowledge and PJ Symposium, of which we hope to have out in June at this point. So that's kind of our angle. So
yeah, that's the goal. Other point of business, Crossland, was this our 100th episode?
Fuck, we didn't talk about that this entire time. But this is our 100th episode. We thank Julie, of course, for being a part of that with us, including the short pour episodes. That gets us to this 100 total. It has been so fantastic over the last. We've technically been doing this for 2 years. We've been releasing the show for a year and 7 months or something like that. To have hit this point, and I don't know, I'm floored. I'm floored by the reaction to us and the show and kind of the whole fucking deal. PJ, do you have some words?
I mean, I'm humbled by it. This is very counter to what I like consider myself to be. Like, I don't think of myself as somebody who puts himself out there to the public, and the fact that I've done that and have gotten a primarily positive, like, response to it has been really, really gratifying. So I just want to thank everybody that has put up with our nonsense for the last almost 2 years.
Yeah, all of the growing pains, all of kind of everything with the show. PJ said it best. I humbled kind of daily, you know. I don't know. Just it's hard to react even to the idea that we're like at 100 episodes. We are at almost 50,000 spins on episodes, like full playthroughs, like not even just starts. Sorry, 50,000 just between Spotify and Apple. But it's just mind-blowing for, you know, the pair of us nerds to be talking about books on the internet and to kind of have this overwhelming reaction. Yeah. Thank you so much for the last year and a half of joy, and we will, at the very least, we're committed to another 2 years to finish it. And that's not to say that we won't go on longer or anything, but here's to 100 more.
Absolutely. I'm committed to it. Let's do it.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Cheers.